my name is Yumi Ridsdale. I am a registered Chinese medicine practitioner and acupuncturist in Ontario, Canada. I am also a registered naturopathy practitioner. So, in the previous video, I talked about what is stress in Western medicine. So, how Western medicine understands what is stress and how stress affects the body. So, today, I'd like to talk about how Chinese medicine understands what is stress and how the stress affects the body. So let's talk about what is stress in Eastern medicine. Um, what does stress do to the body? And stress consumes the healthy body fluid in the stomach. Period. That's what it does in Eastern Chinese medicine. It consumes the healthy body fluid in the stomach. It is called the stomach yin. You probably heard yin and yang. So yin is here, digestive fluid, and yang is the function of this digestive fluid. Without the digestive fluid, there's no function of it. So when you lose yin, you also lose yang. So this is what happens with stress. This is it. Everything else is caused due to the insufficiency of the stomach yin or stomach body fluid. So let's go through what can happen when you don't have enough stomach yin. First, digestion. So deficiency of the stomach yin causes further digestive impairment. Of course it does. First, it'll become you'll have a low appetite. Low appetite for breakfast is the beginning. When you have a stress and then when you don't have enough body fluid in the stomach, you should recuperate the body fluid of the stomach with one night's sleep. But if you don't recuperate the yin with one night's sleep, your stomach will be dry with insufficiency of the digestive fluid. Your stomach will be dry in the morning. If your stomach is dry, your stomach cannot accept food, so you don't feel hungry. So those are the people who feels like, I don't need a breakfast, like, I don't feel hungry. I usually eat lunch, but I skip breakfast, or I only have coffee in the breakfast, right? um that's a beginning of the dry stomach. You should have an appetite in the morning. You should want to eat in the morning. If you can't, that's a problem. And this the trend of the fasting, intermittent fasting, to skip the breakfast and lunch and only eat supper is garbage. You only get weaker. Fasting is great. It's good idea to let the stomach to rest so the stomach can recuperate the yin, but not uh, eating breakfast. So skipping a breakfast is wrong. So you should eat breakfast and lunch and skip supper. That's the proper way of intermittent fasting. Many people do the intermittent fasting and eat only supper because they don't have a good appetite in the morning to start with. They have a dry stomach anyway, so their appetite is only getting stronger after lunch, right? So they like, might as well I do the intermittent fasting. I'm doing something great for the body. No, you're not, right? You have to eat breakfast. Skip supper is okay, but you gotta eat breakfast. So low appetite for the breakfast is the beginning of the stomach yin deficiency. Now that will lead to the low appetite all day, and then you get full easily. You may feel like strong hunger because the body is malnourished. It doesn't have enough nourishment, so body, you want to eat but you don't have appetite. Like, you look at the food and you can't eat it. There's no food can go in, or you have a couple bites and you're done. Like, you go to the restaurant because you're so hungry, but when the meal actually comes to the table, you don't want to eat it. You're so hungry, you go to the supermarket and then you just wander around forever because you don't know what to get. It's because your body is malnourished, but you can't eat because your stomach is too dry. Insufficiency of the stomach yin here. You may have a strong thirst because your stomach is dry, but you can't have a cold drink. Drinking water causing a vomiting. It's because your stomach is too dry and you can't absorb the water. If you ever done gardening, and then imagine there's a really dry soil here, like too dry to the point that the soil is cracking, and if you dump the bucket of water, that the soil is not gonna absorb all the water. Most of the water just run away, right? Because the dry soil cannot absorb the water. Your soil needs to be slightly moist to absorb more water. Same thing. Dry towel is not gonna absorb too much water. It needs to be slightly wet. I'm 40, so I don't know if you remember, like, maybe a decade ago, there's a things called the chamois magic towel that absorbs everything, but it needs to be slightly moist to absorb those um, liquid, right? Like a dry chamois is not gonna work. Same thing. It needs to be, if the stomach is too dry, it cannot absorb food. It cannot absorb water. So you may vomit the water out. And you also would have indigestion, bloating, nausea, vomiting. Nausea with hunger is like a really dry stomach, to the point that the dry stomach is now have a dry heat. He goes up, right? Like your attic is always warmer than your basement. He have a nature to go up. So when the dry stomach eventually cause the dry heat, and the dry heat is will go up and tickling all the esophagus out, causing the nauseousness, like nausea, right? Bloating before eating, or bloating when the stomach is empty, that's also a sign of the poor stomach yin. Slow digestion, feel like food always stuck here, or like, you feel like you're not digesting any food. Poor nutrition absorption, so you eat but you're malnourished. um, if a child has a stomach yin deficiency, he will eat a lot, but he'll stay very skinny, to the point that other people may worry about, is this kid eating fine? And then, like, at home, mother is feeding and feeding. This kid can eat a lot of food, but he stays super skinny. Why? It's because the kid is not absorbing any nutrition, because his stomach is too dry. That's stomach level, right? Here we are in the stomach level. And what would happen to the intestine? Slow or no peristalsis. Intestine is too weak, so it doesn't move. So it causes a dry stool or constipation. This constipation is not because the stool is um too sticky. It's because the peristalsis is not happening. Intestine is too weak. Dry stool because things dry out. Unable to defecate. I had a patient who she was my age, not too old, and then she had a few major moves. She came to Canada from her mother country, and when she was teenager, and had a very stressful time in Canada. And then she married, and then she went to the Saudi Arabia, and then another major move. She needs to get used to the new culture again. And then she came back to Canada again, and then she had kids. So a lot of the stressful life um, series of the stress happened, and then eventually her peristalsis stopped, like, for 7 years. Since she started coming see me, she has to use the enema every single day to defecate. Otherwise she can't defecate with her own intestine function, right? It's not happening. I got her intestine working, but it was a work. Now, on the other hand, you could also have a liquid diarrhea. Why? Because the intestine is not absorbing anything. So you could have a dry stool or liquid diarrhea. This liquid diarrhea is not explosive like when you have a food poisoning. It's a dribbling. It just, you don't have any power to hold it. It just dribbles away, and it's not smelly like when you have a food poisoning. It's like a water coming out. Diarrhea when you're fatiguing, or diarrhea in the nighttime, evening diarrhea. I had a patient who had a green liquid diarrhea every time he works out. He's like a young 30 years old, but he like I said, he was a very, very skinny kid. He couldn't add the pounds on his body even though he eats a lot. And as an adult, he had a liquid diarrhea, liquid green diarrhea every time he goes to the gym because he was a bodybuilder. Wrong things to do when you're malnourished, but he did. And then, like, it was a tough case to deal with as well. Um, he had a stressful childhood as well. Um, Undigested food in the store. Undigested food in the store is because the stomach is not breaking a food, right? Stomach is supposed to break the food down, but it didn't. So all the food content, like, go all the way to the intestine, and your intestine is not absorbing anything. It doesn't even absorb the liquid. How it's gonna absorb, like, undigested broccoli? It won't, right? So you would see the undigested food content in the liquid diarrhea. You could also have rectum prolapse because your body is supposed to contain all the organs in. It should have a chi to contain all the organs where it should be. If it doesn't, it prolapse out. So especially when the person is tired, if I stand for too long, my intestine will come out. Like, this is the dry intestine. There's no chi. When I say dry intestine, it also means there's no chi. Uh, there's no function, there's no chi, there's no fluid, there's no yin. At the very end, yin and yang is the same thing. Although it is the opposite, but when the yin decreased, yang decreased as well, right? So no chi, no yin, no function. So when the person is tired, the intestine prolapse out. Okay, so let's talk about how the stress affects the blood. So when we're talking about the blood, due to the imbalance or dysfunction of the blood due to the stress, we're talking about the quantity and quality. So the blood quantity wise, it's basically improper digestion will cause malnutrition. We talked about how stress affects the stomach and the intestine, and how as a result, as a result of the stomach deficiency, malnourishment can happen. So when there's malnourishment happens, there's no more new good quality blood because simply you can't produce the blood when you're malnourished, right? You can't produce blood out of nothing. So let's talk about how the malnourishment leading to the insufficiency of the blood, or the poor quantity of the blood, can cause what kind of symptoms in other areas of the body, right? So in the musculoskeletal area, there is tightness. Muscles and tendon are not juicy because it's not nourished with the blood. You need to always have the fresh blood with fresh nourishment, fresh temperature to go to the extremities to for the limb, for the extremities to function well. Right? There's a muscle and tendons are not juicy, so they cannot stretch, or it got stuck here. You cannot stretch. You feel tight, right? Um, you may even have numbness and tinglings as well when there's tight insufficiency of the blood at the extremities. Then you would also have a muscle cramp, cherry horse. It's because that the soft tissue, the muscle of the calf, let's say, is not juiced up with the new blood, so it gets tight like a jerky, like a beef jerky. So it always contracted, right? So when you try to stretch in the middle of the night, when you have an even poor circulation of the blood, your calf gets screams out because it doesn't have any good juicy blood to be able to stretch the muscle. So it causes the muscle cramp, which makes you scream because it's really painful, right? I think everybody have been there. Internal blood is not sufficient enough to nourish the leg muscle. So muscle atrophy and muscle weakness can happen, but before that, you will have a muscle cramp. Then atrophy and weakness would happen. You feel like your legs are weak. You feel like your legs are skinnier, right? Those are the poor blood production and circulation in musculoskeletal areas. In the heart, of course, affected by the poor quantity and quality of the blood, because it's a heart, right? Like heart is where you pump the blood. You would have a palpitation with fatigue. This is not the type of the palpitation that you get when you're anxious and then stressed. This is the type of the palpitation you get when you're fatigued at night. Especially, these are the palpitation out of the not enough blood in the heart. Fast heartbeat, tachycardia, shortness of the breath, sudden chest pain, irregular heartbeat, weak heartbeat are all due to insufficiency of the blood. What can happen is um, when there's not enough blood in the system, the dry energy, which we call in Chinese word bentun. Bentun is like a running piglet. So this skinny, malnourished pig run through the app, and then it causes that causes a palpitation on the heart, shortness of the breath, sudden chest pain when it's in the chest, and it can go all the way up, and then it causes many different symptoms. But often the sudden chest pain, especially in the center, not in either side, but the center of the chest, the sudden pain, like a squeezing pain or like a ascending feeling when you're tired, or for girls during the menstruation or after the menstruation, this or before, this is because not enough blood in the system, causing the uh, skinny pig runs, and then causing those symptoms. Sorry, my dog wants some kisses. Do you want to kiss his kid? No? Okay. Um, then reproductive issues. For women, scant menses, amenorrhea can happen. Like, of course, if you don't have a blood, you wouldn't have menstruation, because you don't have enough blood for the proper body function. You don't have enough to lose in a proper menstruation. So when you're tired, when you're stressed out, any girls know that they can skip a menstruation. This is why. um, or fatigue with menstruation, right? And then it will lead to the infertility. Infertility in a woman due to the insufficiency of the blood is poor egg quantity and quality. Now, quantity though, girls don't produce the egg as we grow. Like, girls are born with the egg, right? So, um, it's more like actually a poor quantity is maybe because your mom was stressed out when she was pregnant with you, but the quality, you can improve the quality if you have poor quantity of the blood, your egg will have a poor quality. For sure, ovarian cyst or PCOS can happen. Fibroids can happen. Why fibroids and then PCOS can happen if you don't have enough blood? Think about the river. If the river has enough amount of the water, river runs through fine. But if you don't have enough water in the river, and then only this much of the water in the river, it doesn't run, right? It just sits there. So it becomes the sediment of the at the bottom of the river doesn't move. It just sits there, and that becomes gooey. Like, you can imagine, right? That happens in the body as well. If there's not enough blood, things that should be flushed away would stay there, becomes a goo, and then the goo will eventually grow, becomes the blob, and then the blob eventually having the surrounding tissue intertwined, mixed with it, and then it becomes fibroids. Um, Also, thin uterine lining, because not enough blood, simply not enough blood. They would know because people would with the thin uterine line would have a scant menses, like the menstruation that ends in a day or two. They would have a thin uterine lining, right? Like, you're supposed to have like a 3 to 5 days of bleeding, um, but it's not happening because you don't have enough blood. Oh, dog hair on my clothes. Oh well, happy problem. Low libido, and sadness and overwhelmingness, um, about infertility would happen. Um, yeah, if you're not healthy, of course you have a low libido. Same as men. Impotence. If you erection is basically the blood fills the penis. If you don't have enough blood, there's not enough blood to fill the penis, so you have an impotent. It's basic physics, right? Infertility, besides the impotent, infertility for men will be the poor sperm quantity and quality. Unlike women who gets born with the set amount of the eggs, men's sperm gets produced every day. So if they don't produce blood, there is not enough. They won't produce enough a sperm, or they won't have a good quality of the sperm. So I live in Cambridge where we have Toyota um, factories here, and I used to have a patient from Toyota, and Toyota, they do the shift, right? They do the day shift and then night shift, day shift and night shift. So like their sleeping cycle is all over the place. So like I said in the previous video, when you're stressed in alarm phase, you need to have a resistance phase to recuperate from the stress. But with the shift work, such as shift work, you just don't get recuperated, right? So he was a young guy, and then he came in to see me for impotence and infertility. Of course, I told him like your job is not working. Like, he can't change the job because to get into the Toyota is a work, and the Toyota pays really well. But having such a lifestyle would end up in a poor sperm quantity. He can't produce enough blood because you don't. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't eat well. He's always under the stress. How he can produce enough sperm, right? He's in the mid 20s. Like I feel sorry about him, but it was a job. It was his job that caused that. And then he also had a low libido as well. Like when the men don't sleep, when men are so stressed out and then don't sleep, don't eat enough, don't not producing enough blood, like how he can have a healthy libido? He probably wouldn't have a healthy morning erection either. It's all coming down to stress causing uh, poor stomach yin production, causing a malnourishment, causing the insufficiency of the blood, causing these impotent and infertility issues. Um, Emotion. Okay, so let's talk about how stress affects the emotion in Chinese medicine. So it starts from the stomach deficiency, leading to the malnourishment of the blood, as well as the malnourishment of the healthy body fluid, which lead to the body function, right? So in the emotional area, um, overthinking and over worry can happen. Trapped thoughts, anxiety, uh, those are because the malnourished, poor digestion, poor digestion led to the undigested production of the undigested garbage stored in a digestive organ, stomach and intestine. So there's a debris, like undigested debris left in a digestive tract. And then, we talked about the skinny pig that run towards the head, but there's also fat pig with this garbage, carrying these garbage, undigested garbage. So there's a fat pigs as well. So there's a skinny benton and fat benton. So this fat benton pigs also run towards the head. And then when it goes to the chest, it will um, cause a cough and then chest pains and stuff like that. But when it all the way to the head, it creates the overthinking and over worry. It fogs the frontal cortex of the brain, and it can't shut down the thinking. Um, if the person thinks the one thing ruminating over and over like a hamster wheel, it is a pure, just a garbage when shoot up to the head. But if the person think like multiple TV screens can shut off, like if there's many thoughts happen one after another, it's because there's also heat is there, because the garbage stays too long, and then the your brain wants to get rid of it, but the garbage kept sending up. This friction of the body function versus the pathogens creates heat, and then now there is a garbage plus heat that cause like a thinking of the many things like at the same time. People who have this think it's natural, but it's not. Like, naturally you should be able to stop thinking. You should be able to like look at window without any thoughts coming through your mind. People think they it's fairy tale that some people don't think, but it's healthy people don't think 24/7. If you think all the time, can't shut off your thinking, it is pathogenic. You need to go see your acupuncturist. Trapped thoughts too, anxiety as well. Anxiety is essentially digestive problem. If you look at my previous lectures about the emotional issues, and I talk about anxiety and then overwhelmingness, overthinking, but it is essentially a digestive issues. You can't heal anxiety without treating the stomach. Then doomy gloomy dark thoughts. This includes the paranoia, uh, like over skepticism. Um, these are these are the really hard to get rid of. Now it's like a really sticky, gooey pathogen stuck in the brain, right? There's a Chinese herb that treats it, and then the scalp acupuncture can treat it as well. It is a treatable. Like if the someone is like doomy, gloomy, and thinks that the world has no hope, it's most likely it's the symptoms that can be treated. Um, Overwhelmingness, on the other hand, it is the poor nourishment causing the dry brain. Now, overwhelmingness and anxiety can happen together. So, overwhelmingness causing the dry brain, but the one part of the brain is sticky and gooey. It's not healthy state of the brain. So, this overwhelmingness and anxiety can happen at the same time, although one is dry and one is like, excessively dirty, filthy, turbid, wet brain, and it can happen together. It's like a analogy that I always give my patient is like garbage pail in the summertime. It's dry inside, but it's still smelly because there's a dry filth stuck on the inside of the garbage pail, giving you this like a smell of the garbage, even though inside is a dry. Same thing. It can be turbid, filthy, and dry at the same time. That's hard to treat. It's a treatable, but it takes at least 3 months, and then like lifestyle changes. Depression too. Depression is a very complicated, as everybody knows. Like, there's this environmental or situational depressions, right? Like, if you lose your spouse, if you something happened to your life, of course you get depressed. But on top of the life, when the life slows your lemon, and then you also have an unhealthy digestive tract, that depression is hard to treat with only counseling, because it is also comes from the stomach. You have to treat the stomach. um, Antidepressant pill makes this slightly difficult. Like on the one hand, antidepressant pills helps with the serotonin production and then dopamine, this and that. um, Antidepressant pill weakens the digestion, always does. So it, in a way, it actually perpetuates the depression. Burnout is similar to the overwhelmingness. It's extremely dry brain. It's because the stress, so the alarming phase was there, and then this person didn't recuperate, so it went into the exhaustion phase. So this is like, few steps before death, right? Like a burnout. You at the burnout, you have to rest, because you have to give a, this is not, it's not a friendly reminder. This is a little more like, alarm going on from the body. Hey body, you need to rest. So burnout, overwhelmingness, if you spill water and you can't stop crying because you feel like your life is over, it's, this is like a situation now, like you need to take a quality rest. Not just taking a day break, like you need like a week break, maybe a month break. You should go see your acupuncturist and get some herbs, right? You need to eat quality food, quality sleep. Insomnia, so when you need to sleep, you can't sleep. Why? Because you don't have enough blood. In Chinese medicine, to sleep, to have a quantity and quality sleep, you need to have a good amount of the blood. If not, you can't. Because in Chinese medicine, we believe that in the nighttime, your liver spirit, which we call hun, needs to go back to the liver so it can sleep there. But if the liver doesn't have enough blood, the hun will uh, unleashed and then it wanders around. So you can't sleep. You need to have a fluffy bedroom in the liver, which takes a lot of the blood, healthy blood. If you don't have the healthy blood, and if you don't make the bed of the liver fluffy, your hun will not settle there. So this is a time that you can't sleep and you don't know why. Sometimes you can't sleep because you have unstoppable thoughts. So let's go back to the very first, right? Overthinking and over worry. This is here, right? Overthinking and over worry. It's because you have undigested debris that got sent up to the brain. um, can happen, so that carry to the nighttime, and then you have unstoppable thoughts disturbing a sleep. um, or you have no reason because you don't have a fluffy bed for the hun. Either way, you don't sleep well. Like initial insomnia, so like hard to fall asleep, hard to stay asleep, waking up too early and can't go back to sleep. Those are all from not enough blood, because you don't have a great digestion. And immune system, we talk about immune system in the previous lecture. Because the adrenal gland gets enlarged, your lymphocyte gets shrunk, right? We have a similar understanding without those fancy words in Chinese medicine. So in Chinese medicine, we believe, this is how we believe what happens when we eat. Um, so food and drinks, when we eat, it it becomes, so food, chi chi from the food gets extracted, assuming your food have a healthy chi. So food from the fast food, greasy food, rotten food, canned, those food don't have a great chi, right? Like a low vibration in the food, so it doesn't have a greatest food. But when you eat fresh food, homemade food, you're supposed to have a good chi from the food, which we call the grain chi. And that's combined with the quality air, so the lung has a clean air, so you have a good breathing. When you breathe well, you have a good amount of the oxygen, so which we call the conchi, or clean air. So these qi from the breathing and then qi from the food combine, it becomes this gathering qi. And that combined with your own qi from the kidney, original qi, combine, and then it becomes true qi, gen qi, or correct qi. More like a correct qi. It's not a pathogenic qi. It's a qi that for to make your physiological function going. So it's a correct qi, gen qi. And then the gen qi is divided into the defensive qi and nutritive qi. Defensive qi is the guard around you to protect you from the upcoming pathogens. Nutritive qi runs inside of you to heal and repair and nourish your body. So when you don't have enough food chi, and then you will have a, as you know, when you have stressed out, your breathing gets shallow because the diaphragm gets tight. Then you don't have enough of the clear air, and then you don't have enough food chi, you don't have enough gen chi, then you wouldn't have enough defensive chi to guard you from outside. So you will become poor, you will end up with a poor immune system and a poor healing as well. So this is how Chinese medicine thinks what would happen if you don't have enough stomach yin. This is all happens because you don't have enough stomach yin. And then the number one cause of poor stomach yin is, as far as I see, it's a poor stress. No, not poor stress. It's a big stress. Poor eating habit is a one thing. You don't eat well because you don't know what to eat, how to eat. You don't know how to cook. You don't have anyone to cook because you don't cook. That's a one thing. But the stress shock, dry stomach, day-to-day stress, one-time big stress like accident, like somebody in your family get an accident, you lost your spouse, you lost your pet, and then you have a stupid boss and a foreman that yells at you, you don't get paid well, you have so many bills, just stress accumulates and accumulates and accumulates, and this is that will lead to the poor stomach yin, causing these symptoms. Those all this symptom comes from your stress. So this is how Chinese medicine understands what stress does to the body. It's similar, like end result. The way things happen may be different, because we don't think with a lymphatic system or adrenal gland, right? We think of the yin and yang and body function in the way we understand. But the end result, what could happen, is the same. You have a poor digestion because uh, either stomach lining is thin and then over stomach line gets thin, or you lose the stomach yin. It's the same thing. End result is the same. How you understand it. Stress does the similar things to the body. Stress is number one killer of this modern era. So I would like to discuss how we can decrease the amount of the stress in the body in next videos. Okay? Thank you. Bye bye.